The origin of humankind has always been an extremely puzzling issue, with countless thoughts and studies conducted to find the answer. To this day, several theories have been proposed, each offering completely different explanations. The theory written in the Jewish Bible states that the first human on this earth was created by a supreme God. There is also a theory suggesting that humans evolved from a type of gorilla based on studies of gorillas conducted by an Englishman named Charles Robert Darwin, 1809 to 1882. So what about Buddhism? How were humans born from the Buddha's point of view? Today's video will offer a fresh perspective on this topic. Let's explore it together. According to Buddhism, the origin of humankind was revealed by the Buddha using his divine eye, meaning he looked into the past, spanning countless billions of years, and spoke of what he had seen. In the supreme Buddhist teachings, it is said that the Tathagata neither comes nor goes, has no past, no present, no future. When the world is destroyed by a great fire, all humans there die and are reborn in the radiant light heaven, corresponding to the second jhana in the form realm. When the world is destroyed by water, all humans will be reborn in the pure abode heaven, corresponding to the third jhana in the form realm. And when the world is destroyed by wind, all humans who die will be reborn in the true result heaven, corresponding to the fourth jhana in the form realm. The deities in the radiant light heaven, when their lifespans and karmic merits are exhausted, die there and are reborn in the heaven of non-percipient Brahma, or Brahma heaven, which is considered a lower realm. Beings arrive in this world when the sun and the planets have already been formed and stabilized. That is, when the world has just been created or recreated after being destroyed by one of the three great catastrophes: fire, water, or wind. In the beginning, these beings are all simultaneously reborn, not just a single being, but many beings who manifest according to their lifespan in the non-percipient Brahma heaven, with no distinction of who comes first or later. They do not need to be nurtured, taught, or cared for, as they are capable of living independently. They nourish themselves with joy, serenity, and leisure. Their bodies emit radiant light that illuminates everything around them, allowing them to see clearly both at night and during the day. They can fly swiftly through space like lightning, light and peaceful, completely free, always at ease without the slightest fatigue or sorrow. Moreover, at that time there was no distinction between male and female because their appearances were identical and all beings were extraordinarily beautiful. There was no hierarchy or rank, everyone was equal, no one interfered with anyone else because there was nothing to compete over. There was no concept of age, no young or old, no different names. When speaking, they would simply say I, you, this being, that being, we, you all, etc. These beings lived such a beautiful life for a very long period of time, until one day, on the planet where they lived, water suddenly appeared. It condensed on the surface of the ground and tasted delicious like ambrosia. When those beings saw the appearance of the water, they became curious and asked one another, "What is this? What is this thing? I've never seen such a strange thing before. Where did this come from? We don't know what it is like. What does it smell like? What does it taste like?" Thinking that way, they dipped their fingers in and smelled it, but it had no scent. Then they continued to dip into the ambrosia-like water and put it into their mouths to taste. After tasting it, they found it delicious and called it water. "This is tasty. This water is so good." Other beings, hearing the praise, imitated them and also dipped their fingers in to taste. At first, they also found it delicious and kept tasting it repeatedly without stopping. Gradually, their desire increased. They began using their whole hands to scoop and eat it. Seeing this, other beings followed suit and kept eating without ever getting tired of it. After a short time, their bodies became heavy and coarse, no longer soft and no longer able to fly through space. Instead, they had to walk on the ground. The light from their bodies also faded, and they could no longer see clearly in the darkness. Those beings began to complain about their bodies losing light and lightness, but they still retained their fondness for the taste of the water. After a long period of time, the water disappeared, absorbed into the ground, flowing to distant low places and evaporating into steam. The beings used their fingers to dig into the soil in search of it. Although they couldn't find the water, when they tasted the water-soaked soil, soft and muddy like clay, they still found it delicious. So they began eating the soft, muddy soil and named it earth flavor. Other beings, hearing the praise, also used their hands to scoop and eat the earth flavor. However, this time, the beings who ate a lot of earth flavor gradually became ugly in appearance, while those who ate less retained their beauty. One being said, "I am beautiful." Another being responded, "You are ugly." From that moment, they began to develop a sense of discrimination regarding appearance, beauty, and ugliness. Sometime later, the soil gradually hardened and no longer retained the soft earth flavor. Then the beings began to lament and said, "Alas, alas, this is a disaster. Why has the earth flavor suddenly disappeared?" This event is similar to how people today may have plenty of delicious food. But when that food suddenly runs out, they feel regret and sorrow. From then on, the beings began to experience sadness. As the earth hardened, a thin crust formed on its surface. This layer no longer had the earth flavor, and the beings called it earth crust and peeled it off to eat. Gradually, they found the earth crust to have some taste and found it enjoyable. Among them, those who ate a lot of it became uglier in appearance, while those who ate less still retained their beauty. They continued to argue more and more about appearance and beauty, comparing who was more attractive or uglier. Later on, from that earth crust, a type of mushroom grew from the soil with very beautiful colors. When the beings saw this strange object appear, they curiously asked one another, "What is this? What kind of thing is this? This looks so strange. I've never seen anything like it before. What is it?" They touched it and found it soft, then pulled the mushroom up and tasted it. It was sweet and had a fragrance even more delicious than the earth crust. They named it earth mushroom. Just like before, the beings who ate a lot of it became even uglier, while those who ate less still retained their beauty. A sense of comparison and inferiority arose among them, and feelings of competition grew stronger over time, though they continued to enjoy the taste of the earth mushroom. Gradually, the earth mushrooms became more and more scarce. Seeing this, the beings gathered and complained to one another. One being asked, "Why don't I see as many earth mushrooms as before?" The others all replied, "I don't know why." One being said, "Now we must go far away to search for earth mushrooms to eat." Many other beings lamented, "Alas, alas, this is a disaster for us. Why are the earth mushrooms becoming scarcer and scarcer?" While the beings were worried about not having enough earth mushrooms to eat, a number of plants began to appear. These plants produced many seeds without hard shells. The beings saw them and tried eating them. They found the taste rich, delicious, and fragrant. These seeds were what we now know as rice, wheat, barley, etc. From then on, the beings began eating the seeds together. In a short time, their bodies became coarser and grew rapidly. Their forms became divided into two distinct types called male beings and female beings. This marked the clear formation and development of human beings. The male beings found the appearance of the female beings strange, and vice versa. Beings of one type enjoyed looking at those of the other. They gazed at each other without ever getting bored. Then they began to feel affection and attraction, wanting to be close to one another. They enjoyed looking, touching, and began to enjoy talking and praising each other. From this, sexual thoughts also began to arise. Other beings saw this and said, "Alas, this is wrong. Why is this male being engaging in such shameful sexual acts with that female being?" These remarks made the male being feel deep remorse, and he threw himself to the ground, refusing to get up. Seeing this, the female being became worried and went to get seeds to feed him. Another being saw her and asked, "Where are you taking that food?" That male being, out of regret for his actions, has cast himself down and refuses to rise. I fear he may starve, so I'm bringing him food. From that moment, the 5 sensual desires, form, sound, scent, taste, and touch, fully appeared. Later on, the beings became increasingly addicted to sexual activity. To avoid the gaze of others, they sought secluded places such as caves, mounds, or created their own private enclosures. At the same time, they began to call male and female beings who lived together lovers or husband and wife. From then on, other beings from the Brahma heaven, after exhausting their lifespan, merits, or blessings, died there and were born into this world. However, they were no longer born through spontaneous transformation, but inside the womb of a female being. From this point on, they began to give names to newborns, and a man and woman living together with children was called a family. It should also be noted that ever since the appearance of plants bearing soft-shelled seeds, the beings would harvest these seeds to eat. Once seeds were taken, new ones would grow again. If they harvested in the morning, there would be more by evening. If in the evening, more would appear the next morning. Because of this, they could keep taking and eating endlessly, living in great comfort for quite a long time. Then one day, a being thought to himself, "If I have to gather seeds every day, it's too much trouble. Today I should gather enough for 2 days." With that thought, the being went and collected enough seeds for 2 days. It was from this moment that the thought of greed began to arise. When another being came and invited him to gather seeds, he replied, "I already gathered enough seeds for 2 days. I don't need to go again. You can go if you want." Hearing that, the other being thought, "That being gathered enough for 2 days, so why don't I gather enough for 3 days?" Thinking this way, he went and collected a 3-day supply of seeds. Gradually, the other beings began to gather more and more seeds to store for 5 days, 10 days, and the amount kept increasing endlessly. Over time, the seeds began to develop hard shells and husks, making them no longer edible right away. And once the seeds were taken, those plants no longer produced more seeds. At the same time, weeds began to appear. At that time, the beings met each other with sadness, holding their stomachs and lamenting, "Alas, this is a disaster. What can we do now? We used to be spontaneously born, without the need for eating or drinking. We took joy simply in wandering around freely and leisurely. Our bodies emitted light, allowing us to see everything without obstruction, both day and night. We could fly through the sky, at peace, free and unhindered. Why are we now suffering like this?" From that day on, they began to cultivate and care for the crops in order to harvest seeds for food, and life became somewhat stable. After a period of peaceful living, some people began to develop deceitful minds. They hid their own seeds and went to take seeds from others. This marked the beginning of dishonesty. Those who lost their seeds upon seeing someone take theirs said, "You are in the wrong. Why do you hide your own seeds and then take mine? From now on, you must not steal again." But those with deceitful minds continued doing wrong as before. When a thief was caught, the victim struck the thief with their hand and dragged them to a place with many people, loudly declaring, "This person hid their own seeds and has stolen mine 2 or 3 times." The thief replied, "This person hit me on the back many times with their hand. They hurt me." Hearing the 2 of them, others became sorrowful, shook their heads, and said, "This world is gradually becoming wicked. Could this be the birth of evil acts?" From then on, people began to feel sorrow about one thing and then another. From this sorrow arose karmic consequences. Suffering and sorrow became the root of birth, aging, sickness, and death, while unwholesome actions became the causes of rebirth into the lower realms. From the moment land was divided and individual dwellings were created, and since the time people developed greed, hid their own food, stole and fought over others' belongings, humans began to argue, slander, quarrel, and even fight one another. These negative events happened more and more frequently, and they could no longer resolve things on their own. These people then discussed and agreed that they needed someone capable of overseeing and settling all matters that arose among them. Thus, the role of the overseer, the one responsible for maintaining order, came into existence. In short, those first humans lived during the founding or refounding of the Earth. They lived from the time of their spontaneous birth on this planet until their death, with an average lifespan of about 84,000 years, far longer than the legendary Peng Zhu, whom people often speak of as living only about 800 years. Surely, some people may not believe that the first humans born on this earth could have lived such long lives. Over time, human lifespan began to decline. There were periods when it increased and periods when it decreased, and now the average human lifespan is very short, only about 75 years. A person's lifespan depends on their thoughts and actions. This thought isn't simply the wish to live long, but rather involves truthful, moral conduct, or deceitful, manipulative, and cruel intentions, as these are the root of one's actions. In general, the collective mental and physical actions of most people create shared karma, which shapes the average lifespan of humanity. Meanwhile, individual karma, separate karma, guides the lifespan of each specific person. For example, today some people live to 90, while others may live only to 50. From thoughts rooted in greed, anger, and ignorance come speech and actions, which lead to karmic consequences, namely the suffering of birth, aging, sickness, and death. Humans can be reborn into 6 realms: the heaven realm, the human realm, the asura realm, the ghost realm, the animal realm, and the hell realm. Humans continue to be born, grow old, suffer illness, and die, rising and falling through time, depending on each person's intentions and actions, whether good or bad. This is called karma. Karma follows us like a shadow, inescapable, unless one is a spiritual practitioner who has attained enlightenment. Only then can one escape the endless cycle of rebirth. Through this, perhaps you now have a clearer understanding of the origin and formation of humankind on this planet. Everything that happens has a cause, even the simplest things. What's your perspective on the Buddhist theory of human origin? Don't forget to share it by leaving a comment below. Wishing you a wonderful day.